Coming up, Election 99 continues. Ray Martin and the panel of experts discuss the...
I would like to thank the people of New South Wales. I've said on previous occasions that I'm incredibly parochial and that I very much love this state. That I do indeed. I understand the decision you've taken today, and I respect that decision. That's what democracy is all about. Let me give you my commitment that we will be a strong opposition and that we will continue to work in the best interests of the people of this great state. Thank you.
Laurie, she's a fresh face, a committed feminist, a working mother. Why didn't women take to her?
Well, I think that she did close the gender gap a little bit with women. All the polls show that she was doing quite well with women of a certain age anyway. But the thing that I noticed there, Ray, is that she doesn't seem to be shedding a lot of tears for her fallen deputy, Ron Phillips. But I agree that she will be a better leader for having been through the fire of this campaign. Kerry Chikarovsky came to the leadership without having a plan, without knowing what she was doing, and I think she will be a much more seasoned politician, and I assume that her performance in the future will be better. But she was let down by her colleagues in this campaign too. Ron Phillips was one of the people who kept stumbling in the campaign, and I'm sorry, John Hannaford, but John Hannaford also stumbled several times in the campaign, and Kerry Chikarovsky was embarrassed. She was let down by her own people.
John, was it, answer back, I mean, it was a campaign that was seen to be filled with gaffes.
Well, there were certainly hiccups in the campaign, Ray, and I think that part of that is something we've got to look at strongly next time round.
Who's to blame?
Well, we'll all be looking at that. With an election defeat such as this, I think you work on the basis that the blame will be shared across the whole of the organisation. What we'll do is look at what went wrong. What have we got to do better next time? But
John, you're one of the most gaff-prone, if not the most gaff-prone of all her lieutenants. Why don't you accept the blame?
Oh, I have acknowledged that there were hiccups within the campaign.
What
accept
hiccups?
Responsibility?
We'll all end up accepting responsibility. I don't know that tonight we attribute blame. Obviously, you'll want to. But I think that at the end of the day, within the organisation, we will all look at where the responsibility lay for each particular issue that occurred and make certain that we do better next time.
She seemed to mention policies in that speech there that we saw. Do you think she was really let down by lack of policy? She was accused along the way of making policy on the run. You had 4 years to get your policies worked out.
I think what Kerry said was that we'd go back to the community now and spend more time working on those policies and make certain that we come to the election next time with better policies. There is no doubt that in an election your policies are on show, and with this particular election, Kerry brought and the coalition brought to the election what was targeted as a comprehensive plan. That wasn't accepted. The electorate clearly did not accept that. They went to the Carr approach of more of the same. Well, clearly, as we go back to the next election, we've got to reassess what are the plans that you bring to the electorate.
But wasn't it also
but part of that problem, I've just got to say, Helen, part of that problem is that when Kerry Chikarovsky got up then, she talked about an election that was based on jobs, on law and order, on education, nothing about privatisation, not a mention of the word nor of the plan. If you've got a policy and you just can't run from it and pretend it isn't there, it's there, and it got rejected, and yet not even after all that did we get a mention of it tonight.
Did you feel that you backed away from it partway through the campaign after promising the sweetener, then suddenly, oh no, but we don't want to push it in the advertising?
No, I think that both Laurie and Graham acknowledged it earlier in the evening. Privatisation has been an issue which the electorate in New South Wales was having difficulty accepting.
So why did you not sell it to them, or why did you make it your central plan?
Because we took the view that within this election campaign the focus should be on the issues which really were of concern to the residents. Were concerned about law and order, they were concerned about health, education and jobs. Now, our plan, which was a comprehensive plan, was to say you can deal with all of those issues, but to be able to deal with those and deal with them credibly, you had to proceed with privatisation. That privatisation was the end, or was the ability to achieve the end. And that was part of the strategy, the plan that we were presenting to the community.
But do you admit that you pulled back from that?
Oh no, right through to the end, underpinning the whole of the plan was privatisation. Privatisation was always there.
But the $1,000 or the $1,100 in shares was not mentioned much in the last part of the campaign, was it? Wasn't advertised?
It wasn't mentioned at all.
Well, again, it was part of the privatisation. We were focusing, and the election was a matter of focusing on the critical issues, the 4 critical issues. Now, we could only deliver on those issues with the direction we articulated by proceeding with privatisation. Now, what we heard from Bob Carr last night was that as far as he was concerned, privatisation is now off the agenda for New South Wales. Completely off the agenda. That means not just the whole privatisation, but even partial privatisation
But
is
John,
totally off the agenda.
John,
now, that's a matter of a real problem for state finances and state administration.
At what stage, though, do you actually sit and be realistic and say, look, so many of the New South Wales voters saw this as a cheap bribe, an attempt to bribe voters? Do you face that, or you simply say, well, we made a mistake in policy?
I'm not quite certain. I've heard a lot of people say to me over the campaign that they considered that the share package was a bribe. It was never intended as that. Certainly that wasn't part of the package. But what we've now got to recognise is that that was a perception of the electorate.
All right.
And you've got to take that into account if you're going to proceed with any privatisation in the future. Now,
Let me clear this up, though. You're saying that as far as the Liberal Party is concerned, privatisation of the electricity system is still on the agenda, will be at the next election.
No, I'm not saying that.
People have said
I'm not saying that because we've got to go back now and revisit all of our policies. What I have said is that Bob Carr has made it clear that privatisation is not going to occur, and Michael Knight's nodding his head in that, confirming that. What I'm saying is that I think, without any doubt, that is going to be a major difficulty for the financial administration of New South Wales and for the New South Wales economy.
All right, I want to talk about the campaign with everybody here, but let's say one man who was instrumental in the switch of leaders from Peter Collins to Kerry Chikarovsky, as well as John Hannaford, and absolutely vital when it came to the coalition campaign is Liberal Party State Director Remo Agorotto. Here's what he had to say tonight.
This was always going to be a very difficult campaign to contest. We started well behind at the start of the campaign. It was always going to be a difficult ask for Kerry to get over the line. I think she's run a great campaign.
What would you do differently? What do you think went wrong?
Oh, look, I don't think it's a question of what would you do differently. I mean, you need to manage a campaign with the set of circumstances you've got in front of you, and we managed the campaign to the best of our endeavours. Kerry ran what I thought was a phenomenal campaign, and you've got to live with the verdict.
In hindsight, do you think 4 months was long enough as Leader of the Opposition?
Look, again, Mike, you've got to manage with the set of circumstances in front of you. The party chose to move its leader within a particular time frame. We had that time frame to work within. So it would have been nice to have another 6 months, but that was the reality.
There's already talk of savage reprisals. Will she stay on as Leader of the Opposition, do you think, Mr Nagarota? Will she stay on?
I've got no doubts that Kerry will remain as Leader of this party. I think the wide consensus within the party is that she's run a very good campaign under very difficult and trying circumstances.
Richo, a phenomenal campaign. You've run a few. Was it a phenomenal campaign?
Well, phenomenal only for the fact that it had more gaffes than anyone I've ever seen, but I mean, there is just this absolute refusal to acknowledge anything went wrong. And I just can't understand that. I think you've just got to say something went horribly wrong and you've got to go and look for it. I'm just not sure that people want to look at the moment. I suppose that's natural. In defeat, you get a bit weary of the argument, and I suppose that people want to have a rest for a couple of days, but the Liberal Party will have to face up to it, and sooner or later I'm sure they will.
You know, I think the problem with what Richo is saying is the fundamental reason why Labor were re-elected was that there was no mood for change. This is a one-term government. There was no great mood for change. You can't say, in all honesty, that the Carr government has been a smashing, outstanding success on any particular issue. They've basically chloroformed. Well, hang on. They've sort of chloroformed the electorate. No one dislikes Carr. No one dislikes the government. You know, there's no feeling of hatred towards the Carr government. There was almost an indifference. The Carr government are there. They've only had one term. Give them another go. The mistake, and whilst the reason I disagree with Graham is this: the mistakes that have been talked about in terms of what the party's done are actually not hard to fix. Earlier development of policy, a more centralised campaign, earlier pre-selections, the leader who's got more time to get warm with the electorate than 3 months. These first campaign for the leader, first campaign for the advertising agency. There's a whole list of things, a few constitutional changes in terms of how long people have got to be members of the party before they can be candidates. These are not hard things to fix. And this is why, and overwhelmingly tonight, you've seen one other thing. The New South Wales Party and the Liberal Party is notorious for self-flagellation or attack. When there's been a problem, they always belt each other publicly. It's an amazing thing tonight. You've seen an extraordinary level of discipline from the New South Wales Party in the face of a very disappointing result. I've got to say that augurs well for the future, because it wasn't expected.
Yes, all the architects of the defeat are standing around saying it wasn't so bad. That's hardly a surprise, Michael.
But Richo, were you listening or not? Were you in Cloud Cuckoo Land?
No,
you're over there.
You're a permanent resident of it these days, I'll say, and that's a worry.
Your problem is
What
that
did you expect her to say,
when
Mike?
you and Michael Knight get together, you're all about the IOC and tickets and handing out tickets to your mates.
You've had the three architects of the defeat telling you it's all okay. It's not okay.
Concentrate on what we're saying. The problems that the party have faced are not difficult to fix, and that's the thing you won't face. There's no great leadership schism tonight. I haven't seen people saying Kerry Chigroffi's got to go, Remo's got to go. There's none of that. No one is overwhelmingly criticising the campaign. I haven't heard any candidate say anything. I haven't heard any former candidate say anything. It's an amazingly disciplined response to a disappointing result. And that tells you one thing. The party's not nearly in as bad shape as you would like people to believe it is.
Michael, at some point, Michael Kroger though, at some point do people have to take responsibility? And if John Hannaford is saying Kerry Chikarovsky's going to be there, does someone like Remo Nagarotto have to take responsibility? Does he have to think about another job?
No, I don't think so at all, because what I've said to you is I don't think the problems in the campaign are all that great. Earlier policy development means that you don't have shadow ministers with policies out there on short notice. That's not a difficult thing to fix.
Why didn't they fix it in time for this one, Michael? They've known this election date for 4 years. They went into the campaign, they didn't have staff in place, they didn't have policies. If it's so easy, why didn't they fix it then?
I can hear you. I need to yell. Simply because, look, the truth of the matter is the Liberal Party, Laurie, is not as good at leadership changes as the Labor Party is. Never has been, because the factional system means Labor, you can say they're voting, the left are voting for so-and-so, the right are, the Labor unity right, or the centre-left, so-and-so is going to be the leader. I mean, this is the grand master of leadership changes right here. In the Liberal Party, every vote's a one or a two. It's much harder, structurally within the Liberal Party, it's much harder to change the leadership, and obviously the leadership change came late. If Kerry had more time, I think the result would have undoubtedly been better. But that's a structural problem within the party. But again, I don't think all these things are terribly difficult to fix, and that's why the result is not the disaster that Graham and Smugface here would like people to believe. It's not. I tell you, it's not. And Chigarovsky's speech, I thought it was a very gracious speech. I thought Carr was excellent, but I thought she gave a very good speech of someone who's very determined to hang around for the next time.
Righto, Michael. Smugfaces.
Well, I just think there's been an extraordinary difference between the behaviour of the two campaign directors. You've seen John Della Bosca run a disciplined campaign right through with themes, and he kept in the background, even though he was running for public office himself. And Remo Nagarotto was out there stumping as much as he could, promoting his own image and running a very inferior campaign. And I think he's got to take some responsibility.
John Hannaford, would you agree with that?
What we will do over the next couple of weeks, there will be a fundamental review of the whole of our campaign. There will be a review of our pre-selection processes. There will be a review of the way in which we attract and develop our candidates. There will be a review of our advertising strategies and the way in which we develop them. Because when you've got this size of a defeat, and it was a disappointing defeat, Helen.
You keep using that word.
The size of this type of defeat...
I'm going to go back to my dictionary, I think.
You've got to go back and look fundamentally at what's gone on and learn from it. Because if you don't learn from this in terms of your state organisation, it will also impact on you federally, and we don't want that to occur.
OK, let's go ahead then. Well, let's look at the New South Wales party vote share now. We'll look at some figures for you at home.
Well, with 74% of the vote counted, Ray, we can see... the graphic will show us the share that the various parties have.
With a bit of luck, it doesn't show us for the moment. Slight problem at the moment with the computer. All right, we will take a break. We'll try and sort the computer out, and we'll come back and give you some more facts and figures. Welcome back to the tally room, Laurie. Alan Reid was right, wasn't he?
Put not your trust in computers.
Never trust a computer, no. All right, let's have a look now at the state share, though. We hope we've got those figures up for you.
Well, 74% counted. The Labor Party has 42.8% of the vote, the Liberals 24.5%, National Party 8.7%, and others 16.4%. And One Nation has done very well. They're among the others. Now we see the swings there. The ALP up 1%, Liberals down 8.1%, National Party down 2.4%, and others up 1.8%. All right. The two-party preferred vote for the state, we'll see that the Labor Party has 50.2% of the two-party preferred vote, and the coalition 49.8%.
What are you saying, Richard?
Richo says that's right.
That's wrong.
What do you think it's?
I think it'll be something like 52-48 if I was a betting man, but it could even be 53, but it's certainly not 50.
For 15 or 17 seat majority, it doesn't look enough.
That's just not right. I'd say 52 to 53.
All right. Time now to check out the result in your seats. On the way, we'll hear from some of the big winners tonight and some of the losers. Laurie, let's give you a hand. We'll take an alphabetical order, starting with Albury.
We're starting with Albury, where Claire Douglas, the independent, has won that seat from the Liberals' Ian Glocken. The sitting member, 79% of the vote counted. The seat of Auburn, Labor's Peter Nagel has retained that easily. In Ballina, the National Party's Don Page has held that from Sue Dakin from the Labor Party. In Bankstown, the Labor's Tony Stewart has held that easily from Paul Barrett of the Liberal Party, 21,000 votes to 4,700.
And just a reminder, Tony Stewart's headquarters, of course, the one that was bombed a couple of times.
That's right. Fire. In Bowen, the National Party's Ian Slack-Smith has held that seat quite easily from Labor's Merrill Dillon. In Bathurst, a very interesting seat, the Mayor of Lithgow, Gerard Martin, has held that seat for Labor. That was their most marginal seat, has beaten the National Party's Stan Wilson and the Liberal Party's David Berry. In Borkham Hills, Wayne Merton from the Liberal Party has held that seat against the Labor Party's Tony Hay. And in Bega, on the New South Wales south coast, Russell Smith from the Liberal Party has held that from Labor's John Boland. Blacktown in Sydney's west, Paul Gibson has held that from the Liberal Party's Rick Holder, a big vote for Paul Gibson. And in Bligh, the independent Clover Moore has held that seat from a challenge from the Mayor of South Sydney, Vic Smith.
And I think we've got just some comments tonight from Clover Moore as well. Have a look.
I've taken on some big guns in Sydney. I've defended City Parkland when there was the handover of our showground to Murdoch, and I've fought to minimise the harm caused by that huge tollway being ploughed through the city and the parkland, and I've stood up for a very diverse community in the face of real neglect by the government. And I think it's notwithstanding all the money and all the things that were done in this campaign, and it was pretty dirty, that the Bligh community want to keep me in there fighting for them and defending them and standing up for them.
Pretty remarkable result though, isn't it?
It was. The Labor Party thought they could beat Clover this time, but she's very hard to beat.
I said earlier on tonight that she'd win. I said right at the start of the evening. I just
but you're an
never
impartial
thought she'd get
commentator, Richard. You're not Labor, are you?
I am indeed. I just never thought she'd get beaten. She's a very strong local candidate, very hard to beat. It's another one of the gunners. She's always going to be defeated, but never is.
All right, Blue Mountains. Let's look at some figures now on Blue Mountains.
Well, in Blue Mountains, Bob Debus, the Labor Minister, has held that seat from Jennifer Scott.
Under attack?
It was under attack, yeah. In Burrinjuck, the wife of the member who vacated that, Albie Schultz, Gloria Schultz, contested that, but she's been unsuccessful. And that seat, I think the National Party was won that seat.
The winner, but not by much. Labor's done pretty well because of the exhaustion rate of the Liberal Party. You're going to find Labor not being beaten by much more than I would have thought, 500 or so, which for Labor is a pretty good result there.
Right. In Cabramatta, Reba Ma has been re-elected easily, although the independents did take some votes away from her. They swapped preferences.
And I have to say, probably, Laurie, that's one of Labor's worst results. I mean, she won easily and all that, but she's had a 10% swing against her and her primary votes dropped 18%.
Yeah.
In an election where Labor's done very well, that's not a great result there.
In Camden, Liz Kernahan, I think, is going to hold that seat from Alex Sanchez.
Pretty close, though.
Pretty close, yeah. She's had a fight there. In Campbelltown, I think Michael Knight might just scrape back there with 16,000 votes compared with the Liberal Party's 5,700.
Is that an increase for you, Michael?
Yeah, it is, Ray. Quite a good increase. Got a great team. They work very hard. Good result. Yeah.
Must have been that Homebush Stadium that got built just before the election.
No, it was more likely the 20 million into the Campbelltown Stadium, I think. We just get the Magpies winning a few games, we'll be right.
Good.
All right, Canterbury next, I think.
Yeah, the seat of Canterbury, Labor's Kevin Moss, the sitting member, has held off the Liberal Party quite easily. Cessnock, where the former member Stan Neely retired, Kerry Hickey, I think is a Milko, has won that seat held that seat for the Labor Party. Charlestown, Richard Face, the gaming minister, has held that quite comfortably from Peter Craig of the Liberal Party. And the seat of Clarence, so this is where a Labor minister, Harry Woods, is battling to hang on from Steve Canstill of the National Party. Steve, of course, is a light heavyweight boxer in the old days, and he's actually, he looks like taking up this title tonight.
On two-party preferred, Harry Woods is about 200 behind at the end of the night. He's going to win pre-polls and lose postals. I'd say the odds are probably just fail. That'll probably be a National Party gain.
Yeah, Bob Carr, though, did say he had hopes that Harry Woods would hang on. Now, Coffs Harbour is the next seat we'll look at, Ray. Andrew Fraser, National Party, has held that seat from Alf Williams of the Labor Party.
Bit of a turn up at the books if he didn't.
It would be, yeah, that's right. It's a very safe seat. The seat of Coogee, where Ernie Page, a very well-known member, some people thought he'd face a fight tonight, but he's held that against well-known local footballer Kevin Junee.
Kevin cares for Coogee, yeah?
That's right, he does. In Cronulla, the Liberal Party's Malcolm Kerr has held that seat from Scott Doherty. Seat of Davidson, Andrew Humperson, with 19,430 votes, comfortably holding that from the Labor Party. As you'd expect, it's one of the Liberal Party's very safest seats. The seat of Drummoyne, where the Labor Party's John Murray has held that from
That's just
Peter
about
Fox.
the biggest win Murray's ever had. That's always a marginal. It's the first time next election Drummoyne won't be a marginal. Thank God for that, we all said.
And Dubbo, where the National Party's Richard Mutton seems to have been defeated by Tony McGrain, the independent, the mayor of Dubbo,